All right, let's get to the screenplay categories. Let's start with best adapted screenplay. Dave, what do you got?
All right. I think both these categories are an embarrassment of riches this year, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So best adapted screenplay. First, I have Sing Sing, which is a movie that has been
Ooh.
failed by its release schedule. I want so many more people to see this movie than have had the opportunity, because if you want to talk about a movie with heart, this is it. And here's a movie that I bet will not be on anyone else's list. Maybe anywhere, is The Bike Riders. From
Oh, love
Nichols.
that.
That's a good
Good
pick.
stuff.
That's a good pick.
Because you want to
Underrated
talk
movie.
about like making a leap. Because like the Bike Riders, the book it's based on, it's like a picture book. I mean, it's just a photo book, and he made it into, in my mind, an amazing script and an amazing movie.
I agree.
Nickel Boys, you already mentioned. Again, a drastic change from the perspective of the book. Nosferatu. Also, I think Eggers is not getting quite enough credit for what he's done here with a screenplay. He has threaded a very particular needle. He has made a Dracula movie, a Nosferatu movie, and his own movie somewhere right in the middle. And that is not easy to do, to kind of satisfy all of that. And I was really, really impressed. And, you know, I've talked about it other places, but Dracula is one of my favorite books ever written. I'm rereading it right now. I've probably read that book like 15 times. I'm like obsessed with it. So like I'm looking to pick it apart, and I was just like in love. And then Hitman from Richard Linklater, I thought was a tremendous adapted screenplay. Another one of those screenplays, much like Hustlers, something that you're not sure is really going to work when you adapt it. But man, I really wish Hitman got like a theatrical release, because I watched it at home and I had a blast. But I would love to have seen that movie in a big, crowded theater, because it's like funny, it's sexy, there's adventure, there's mystery, there's everything going on, and it's all packed in that screenplay. But my winner, surprise, surprise, is Nosferatu. Wearing the shirt, repping the movie. I think it's great. I think Eggers is one of our best working directors and writers.
He's one of my boys. Yeah.
He's fabulous and fantastic. So Nosferatu, best adapted screenplay.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying as far as why that movie does ultimately work. A lot of that, though, for me is really due to the direction and how he's able to tonally balance all those things.
Sure.
I have to take every opportunity to disagree with you on things. The script for Nosferatu is my biggest issue with it, and it's primarily because the scenes with Willem Dafoe, Ralph Ineson, and Aaron Taylor Johnson really just feel like plot to me. I feel like there's a lot of plotty expositional stuff happening in between the great stuff, and that's why I didn't fully love the movie. But I do love what Eggers is doing as far as combining all of these elements. I think as a visual splendor, it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. As far as my nominees here, we have some crossover, Dave. I do also have Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes for Nickel Boys. I have Richard Linklater and Glenn Powell for Hitman. As far as a few others, I have Justin Kuritzkes for Queer. I have George Miller and Nick Lothorius for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And my last nominee, Vera Drew and Brie LaRose for The People's Joker.
I love that pick.
Really inventive stuff there for sure.
Yeah.
And I was on. I feel like I can pick any one of these five out of a hat, and I would be happy with those as a victor here. I think if I'm going to pick one right now off the cuff, you know, JD, just coming off the heels of our discussion of our best scenes of the year on episode 618, we talked a lot about the ending to Furiosa. So I think right now, I'm going to give the edge to George Miller and Nick Lothorius for that film.
Nice.
So yeah, they're going to get my win here, because I think there's a lot about what's going on narratively, what's going on in the backbone of that movie that is so weirdly psychological and weirdly biblical, very symbolic. It's a very different vibe when compared to Mad Max Fury Road. I often say that if this is a heavy metal franchise, and I'm going to make a reference to a band like Metallica, Fury Road was Enter Sandman. Furiosa is Nothing Else Matters. It's the epic power ballad of this kind of, you know, genre filmmaking. And of course, a lot of that is due to George Miller's direction. But I think the script writing here, and maybe why I'm giving it the win, which might not be fair, I just think it's such an underappreciated portion of the movie. There's so much going on story-wise and all of the symbolic imagery, the biblical imagery that comes at the end, I think is all baked into the actual story itself that I think is so crucial to why this film is so interesting. And I really wish more people were talking about it.
Okay, that is a really interesting pick. I am glad to hear it. As far as my nominees for adapted screenplay, I have Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes for Nickel Boys, Greg Quidar and Clint Bentley for Sing Sing, Chris Sanders for The Wild Robot, Justin Kuretsky's, forgive me for butchering that, for the film Queer. And then my last nominee here is George Miller and Nico Lotharius for Furiosa, and God damn it, Brenton, for stealing my thunder.
What did you do?
When it comes to Furiosa.
I was wondering why you were so
pick.
I was wondering why you were so quiet after I gave my reasonings for it.
Yes, that's why. You stole my thunder wholeheartedly. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I absolutely love the screenplay to Furiosa. And for me, I think it is the star of that movie. I've talked quite incessantly, at least when we're discussing this movie, in comparison to Mad Max, how it is the inverse of that film, right?
Yeah.
Mad Max Fury Road was structured around its spectacle, but infused with these moments of poetry, whereas Furiosa is structured around its parable and infuses moments of spectacle throughout. I absolutely love its parabolic structure. It becomes mythical, biblical, as you were talking about, in its scope. And I love the grandeur of the writing in that regard, as it gets into ideas of revenge and grief and hope, how all of those things are fused with these characters. And while I think the larger storytelling is really great, what is probably most underrated, especially because at times you get lost in the spectacle, and I do think there is a diverting quality to all of that for sure, but the character exchanges in this film are really, really great. Really, really fantastic. And I think that's, partially why I think the performances here are so great, because they are given dialogue as if it's Moses on the mountaintop speaking about the 10 Commandments. Like it is phenomenal how large the writing is in that regard. And the performances do such a great job of tapping into that kind of mythical quality that comes in the writing. And that final scene between Furiosa and Dementis, it is nothing short of poetry. It is absolutely incredible how all of that crystallizes there. And then getting into the mythical ambiguity of it all as to what really happened to Dementis. Like that kind of writing takes these movies to a whole new level. And that is the difference between a George Miller and a lot of the other slop that we get from, the Hollywood studios in terms of large scale filmmaking.
So sad this movie was not a hit.
It blows my mind. But I think the writing is nothing short of brilliant. I think it is absolutely one of the best screenplays of the year. And for that, it is my winner here for adapted screenplay.
So good. Good brain, JD.
Okay.
Good brain.
Yep, good stuff.